Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you on this Thursday, July 13th. One day past Prime Day. So if you missed that, like I did, and don't care, welcome aboard. Dustin Schutte with us, as always, each and every Thursday. Appreciate you being with us. Don't forget it, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Just go to andymorehonda.com to get more to your door, and Endeavor Hospitality and the family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area. Great places like BB's Market and Chop Shop, the great new steakhouse located right next door. Good day. How is everybody? How are you, Mr. Schutte?
I'm doing great. Week's winding down. We're getting closer to football season. Baseball and the All-Star break. We're getting ready to light it back up. Lots of good things.
Have you been practicing your knot tying?
Yeah, you know what? As a matter of fact, okay. So this was a distraction. People on the radio cannot see this, but Jim has maybe the most epic coffee mug I have ever seen in my life. It's 2 donuts stacked on top of each other. Where did you get that?
It's not mine, but...
Oh, I would steal it.
Yeah, it is kind of cool, I guess, isn't it?
Not I guess. That is an outstanding coffee mug. I've got just like this blue campfire coffee mug today. That's the best coffee mug I've ever seen.
I'd go for the campfire look personally, but okay. But I noticed how you quickly diverted from your knot tying.
Okay. So here's the thing, and this is a problem.
Practicing your knots.
Yeah, to tie up boats and things.
Right.
Or there's a restaurant, an establishment, 20 to 25 steps from my apartment that hosted trivia night on Wednesday, every Wednesday, by the way, here in the great city of Brownsburg, Indiana. And maybe they had a peanut butter stout beer that was delicious and stout and had a high alcohol content. And I may or may not have had one too many. So we
the only drinking problem there is I just dribbled the coffee down my chin.
We didn't get first. We got 5th in trivia, but I think we lost by 6 points. And had we gotten one more question right, we would have either forced a playoff or we would have won. So I don't know. It was a lot of fun. Playoffs. It was a lot of fun, but I am maybe feeling it a little bit today.
No problem. The ESPYs were last night. I watched 0 of that, so I have it's lost its luster for me, I guess.
Yeah.
It used to be must-see TV.
Yeah, I think so too. It used to be something I don't want to say I would record, but I tried to make sure I was in front of the TV to watch it every year. But now I don't know why. Maybe it's not as good as it used to be. I don't know. Maybe it's fine and I just am getting too old for those shows. I don't watch any award shows. I don't watch the music awards, movie award, the Golden Globes, the Oscars. I don't watch any of that stuff anymore. It just doesn't really appeal to me.
I understand. Hello to everybody jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline already. Fred, Doug, Nickel, Gritty, Heath, 5 lefts, Fred, and Heath says peanut butter beer.
Ugh. Let me tell you, just give it. If you like peanut butter, give it a shot. Not an actual shot. Just do a sample. And if you like peanut butter, I can promise you like this. I'll have to look up the name of it, but it was bare knuckle peanut butter or something like that.
Wow.
I don't remember what it was called, but it was delicious. I couldn't get enough of it. But I'm a big peanut butter, Reese cup, Reese Pieces type of individual, so maybe it's just me.
Let's see. Who was it? I just missed it. He says that Lakers fans are already calling Jalen Hood-Schifino a bust, which he says is crazy, which it is, of course. Trying to pull up his stats just for the summer league so far, but I don't know how you call anybody a bust. My God, Victor Wembanyama played 2 games. One of them was terrible.
Yeah.
So does that mean he's a bust? He had a great game after that, but so I mean, that's fans don't know Jack.
Nope.
I can tell you that. Now, I'm not to say that he's going to be the second coming, but man, this is a learning experience, a lot of learning experience for these guys. So, hello to Michael from St. George Island, Florida. I don't even know where that is, but it sounds lovely.
It does sound lovely.
Fred did not watch the ESPYs either. He saw some highlights, and now you know why he didn't. So, didn't miss anything. Jason, how are you doing, sir? He's got a question for you. Would Mark Hagan be a good hire to replace? Oh, wow. We're going there already.
Just jump. The season hasn't even started yet. We're just jumping right in. That's an interesting question.
Let's see why there's no. That's not even. See, to me, that's. I'll tell you why I think that's a pointless discussion. First of all, are you talking about a year from now? If that were to happen, and I'm not saying that it should happen, will happen, but that's something that is not going to happen for this football season, regardless of nothing. There's nothing that's going to cause a change there. So east of Panama City. Okay, so it's up on the Panhandle.
I'm just going to let me just throw a name out there because we've talked about this.
Why names? Now, if this was for Northwestern, that would make sense.
Well, it's the same name
for coach now.
It's the same name for both schools. I mentioned this in the chat we had. Just keep an eye on Kevin Johns. I mean, he worked at Northwestern. He He's been successful at Duke. He's been successful, I think, pretty much everywhere he's been. And like when you work at those schools, he would know how to recruit those schools, and he would know the obstacles he's up against, having coached at Northwestern, Duke, Indiana. So that's a name I would put in both categories. We'll see what happens for both schools, obviously, but that would be a name. I don't know if Mark Hagan, I don't know that he would be a good transition to a head coach. Has he done? I don't even know that he's done anything other than be a D-line coach. Has he? I don't even think he's been a coordinator. I could be wrong on that. Anyway, Jim's upset. Jim's upset.
Jim's upset. That was just on. I just saw that the other day. George is upset.
I'm going to go back to this question really quick about Jennifer. She has, was it a quaff-on beard? Yes, it was whatever. I don't know if that's an Indianapolis brewery, but it was quaff-on. Yes.
No, that's a Nashville, Indiana beer.
Okay, gotcha.
Not one of our sponsors, so as is Metalworks Brewing Company. But what was I getting ready to say? No, I'm not upset, but I just think it's pointless right now, because if that were to come to fruition, that's going to be down the road, and things are going to change. Things change in a month, much less in 8 months, 10 months. And for that to even be a possibility, it's going to be months and months from now. And there's only one name that I would even want to entertain hearing, and that name is Kalen DeBoer.
Oh, that's not happening.
Why?
Yeah, you think he would leave Washington?
Listen to this. USC and UCLA leaving the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
The Big Ten is going to just get bigger and make more money. And people always say, is Indiana committed to football or not? That would show the ultimate commitment to football.
I agree with you on that. My question would be, long term, are there conversations? Would Kalen DeBoer know if Washington has interest in coming to the Big Ten? Because there's been rumors about Oregon, Washington. I don't know if there's been others. I'm sure there has, but those have been two schools that would, if the Big Ten were to go to 18 teams or try to pursue a 20-team league, then Washington would be in that mix, and then he's getting that Big Ten money as well. So I don't disagree. I don't disagree with your point that if the Pac-12 takes a significant hit and they can't, Indiana might be able to offer more money. I don't disagree with that point. Washington is a much better program. It would be a matter of what's the conference outlook, what's the conference look like, what's the monetary gain for a guy like Kalen DeBoer, and I don't know the answer to that.
Well, my opinion on that is Indiana would have no choice at that point. You would be remiss if you did not do everything in your power, because that is going to be another critical juncture in the Indiana football. If they have the opportunity, if there's going to be a replacement that happens at a point, you have, in my opinion, they have to make every effort to get that guy. That is the guy they need to get. Period. If they want to be serious about it, if they want to be serious about trying to even think about competing in the Big Ten, because we've talked about it, it's changing again, and not changing where it was a benefit for basketball. This is not a benefit for football, for Indiana, the NIL, arms race, and all of that.
Yeah, right.
So that would be the only way, to me, that's the only thing I see as a possibility. But again, that's down the road. If that becomes Tom Allen, what happens if Tom Allen shocks us this year and they have a good season?
Yeah, what would you qualify as good season? And this is,
making a bowl game. Anything less than that is not good.
Really? See, I go a step below that.
No, if you don't qualify for a bowl game, it's not good.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, yes, but I think if Indiana got to 5 wins and they were more competitive in those games that they need to be more competitive in, that would be such a huge improvement. I mean, I understand that they won 4 games last year, but they've been getting blown out by these teams the last 2 years, and that's got to stop. Like, if it just looks better if they get to 5 wins and then they have a more competitive schedule, then I think you can say it's a success and you give Tom Allen at least another year.
No, Philip. I think that was a horrific failure for the Colts, and it would be a continued failure for. Yeah, no. You need a college coach, a successful college coach. Period. I agree. No moral victories, but there's a moral break, and we've got to take one. We've got a loaded show today, people. Besides Dustin Schutte, Matt Taylor from the Colts will be with us. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Mike DeCourcy on today, as opposed to his normal day on Tuesdays, back from vacation. So looking forward to all of that and more. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market,
man, that first segment just flew.
It did. My bad on the beer thing. I didn't think about that.
What
did you say?
On the sponsorship thing, my bad.
Oh, I don't care. It makes it funny. Dude, no. That just that gave me a reason to say it. So it's good. No, I don't care. I say stuff all the time. That's cool. Don't ever not do stuff like that. That's great. I'm cool with anything. I don't care.
Cool.
It's you know why?
Because
I'm easy like Sunday morning.
When I used to sell sponsorships, there were certain things we would do where you couldn't even mention another thing. So I didn't know.
I know. You know what? so-and-so is going to be on next week on another network.
Yep.
Why say
on
it?
the afternoon show that I do, the title sponsor
that's the thing
is
that drives me nuttier than anything when somebody says on another network. You're going to mention something but not say where. Oh, give me a break.
Right.
Drives me insane.
What were you saying, John?
the title sponsor on the afternoon show that I do is Thornton's, the gas station, which Jim, you probably know what Thornton's is. Dustin, you might not.
I probably know what Thornton's is. Are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, it's because it's a regional gas station chain. That's why I said Dustin probably wouldn't know.
Hey, brother. No. They're in Florida. They're all over.
Thornton's in Florida?
I didn't know that.
Dustin,
I didn't know Thornton's was a thing.
Thornton started in Louisville. But do you know who Fuzzy Zeller's wife was? A Thornton. Is a Thornton.
Oh, okay.
Was a Thornton. She passed away.
But anyway, so like because of that, like we can't even mention other gas station chains.
Yeah. Okay. See that I've been through that too, and but it's
like Buc-ee's. Like we could I've always wanted, especially like when I went to Buc-ee's this over like down to Florida this summer on the way down. I honestly thought it was way too overhyped. I mean, the stuff in there is kind of cool and the food's good or whatever, but I wanted to have a segment not on here but on the other show about talking about why Buc-ee's is overrated, but that's still giving them pub, so we couldn't do that.
Yeah. Buc-ee's. I don't get it, but whatever. They've done a great job with marketing.
They have. It's real weird. It's like a cult. All right, here we go.
Food and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. It is July 13th, yeah. Appreciate everybody being with us. As always, no matter how you're listening, radio, YouTube, or podcast. Our radio friends down on the river, 97.7 ESPN, always the right call. The ref. Got up to the region, the voice of the region. WJOB, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. Crossover to Fort Wayne at 1380, The Fan. Hope everybody's doing well up in the frozen tundra. Just a joke. We'll have our good friend Dylan Sinn on in a little bit from Fort Wayne as well. No baseball to talk about as this is the last day of the All-Star break. No, yesterday was, right? So I think we returned to baseball tonight.
I thought baseball was it's tomorrow, Friday.
Oh, another day? Okay. There was a comment earlier that I did not see that. Jerome Hunter sidelined due to a medical issue. That's hate to see that for him. He's dealt with a lot of that back in the early parts of his Indiana career. But there was a comment earlier that Lakers fans were saying Jalen Hitchafino is a bust already. I'm like, well, he scored 20 and 15 points in different games, so that's kind of weird to call him a bust.
Well, I mean,
let's hear more about him being a leader and being a floor guy. This is not about scoring 30 points a game, but
it's kind of like I don't know why you would take certain things away from some, and especially like from a fan perspective, you have no idea what these guys are trying to get adjusted to the NBA game, which is completely different from Europe, from the college game, from anything they've done before. It's probably more comparable to the G League, I guess. But nonetheless, you're still going up against NBA talent, and it's going to take some time. And so whether or not it doesn't matter. He could score 40 points one game, and he could score 2 the next game. and it's much more demanding. You go from playing 2 games a week basically for a couple months to playing 3 to 4 games back-to-back nights throughout the course of an 82-game schedule. So it's an adjustment period. I don't know. People are dumb. Like, I don't
playing the point guard. That's the hardest position in basketball. You're the guy with the ball. Your job is to distribute, but you also want to score, want to get to the basket, shoot 3-pointers. That's like being a quarterback. You've got a lot of things on your plate. So relax. Lakers fans need to relax, but that's easy to tell people to relax. They want everything now. I get it. Just not how it works out. But more interesting to see if Trace Jackson Davis, when he's able to make his debut, as he's been sidelined with a hamstring issue. So hopefully we'll get to see him in a little bit. We were fortunate to have J.D. Campbell on with us yesterday, talking about his trip out there. And Dustin DePerick, when we have him on again next week, we can talk to him more about it. So we'll let it finish out. How much longer is the summer league?
It's probably, I would guess it's probably close to being maybe another week or 2.
It's be winding down.
It doesn't usually last I think it's just a couple weeks. I don't know how many games they play. It's been a while since I've invested in summer league, but it's usually just a couple weeks where they have like a quote unquote regular season, and then they usually have a tournament to determine a champion. So,
well, the Pacers just lost their first summer league game, as a matter of fact, as well. Let's see. The NBA runs through the 17th. So
4 more days.
Yeah. They're in Sin City for 4 more days. So there you go. So hopefully Trace Jackson Davis can make his debut. If not, he'll go back into and work out and just get ready. Tomorrow we'll hear from Trey Galloway. LeBron announced on the ESPYs that he's coming back for a 21st season, as if that was a surprise.
Right.
I mean, that was not even in question, people. He's not going to just walk away without a fanfare. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, he's going to make an announcement. He's going to make a big deal out of it. He's going to go around the NBA and get all the applause and accolades. And
Are you not entertained?
Do whatever you got to do. He's been enough of an influence on the game that I think that's warranted. But yeah, he's not going to just make a surprise I'm stepping away decision.
Speaking of gladiators, Matt Taylor joins us, the ultimate gladiator. How are you, my friend?
Yes. I am Jack.
I'm the king of the segues, baby.
Nitro don't have nothing on me. Let's roll, boys. What's happening?
How are you?
I am good. What's going on in your neck of the woods? You guys staying cool down there in B-Town? It's heating up here in Indy, man.
Well, Dustin's finally moved back to the Hoosier State. He's a relative neighbor of yours over in Brownsburg now.
Oh, nicely done, Dustin. What's up, man? Why the move to the Hoosier State here?
A lot of factors involved, but I thought I'd get back to my roots. And mostly I wanted you and Kristen Airy to be able to take me out to St. Elmo's anytime you wanted. I figured that was something that was really
smart.
What was affecting you, and I just wanted you to for you to have that opportunity to be able to do that was the main reason.
Well, I will take you up on that opportunity anytime, brother. You just name it and we'll do it, brother. Anytime.
That sounds good.
What? Dustin get all the special treatment.
I like Dustin. He's a good guy.
Kristen Airy treats him like a king. I'm like, man.
Well, but I got to ask, because Jim made the comment about Gladiator, and then Matt brought up Nitro. Have you watched the Netflix documentary on American Gladiators? Have you tuned into that, Matt?
I've seen it just with the promos. I haven't watched it, but I was a huge American Gladiator guy, like 3 seasons behind on USA when they would have the reruns on at like 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning in the summertime. That's when I would watch American Gladiator. And I became a huge fan of that show because it was mindless television. It was like pros versus Joes, because those guys would just annihilate the competition. And that's what I loved about it, just seeing a guy off the street that thinks he's better than Nitro, and Nitro just annihilates him. That's what I enjoyed most about that show.
That's kind of like this segment. You're the pro. I'm just a Joe. Usually get annihilated. This is perfect.
Verbal assault on Jim Coyle. Let's go, Dustin.
Well, I've got
Take it to him.
Well, I've already got who is it? Nichols saying that at least he doesn't wear pink shirts. This is coral, FYI, not pink. Coral.
You do look like you got a little suntan.
Well,
he's been out on a boat.
Working on it.
Yeah.
I can show you the tan line. It's beautiful.
Please don't.
Please do not. That'd be great. That would be
How's
great.
How are things going in your world, man? Not the NFL is slowly getting closer to cracking out.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right. So here, I think 2 weeks from today, actually. What is today? Thursday? No. So 2 weeks from yesterday, players will report for training camp for the Colts up at Grand Park in Westfield. You can get up there, Dustin. I think it's like, what, a 35-minute drive for you? That's manageable. We can get you up there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's all coming up here shortly. So training camp on the near horizon up at Grand Park in Westfield. It is free, kind of a shameless plug there. Free 13 practices open to the fans and the general public, but you do have to download tickets digitally, if you will. So Colts.com/camp, where you can get your tickets. And again, it's free. You're going to have joint practices coming up with the Chicago Bears on August 16th and 17th ahead of that preseason game that weekend. And then, unfortunately, this year, training camp is a little bit shorter, a little bit abbreviated compared to last year. That's because the last week of training camp that would have belonged to the Colts in Westfield now goes to Philadelphia, because the Colts are going to partake in a joint practice with the Eagles going into that last preseason game, which is a Thursday night game. So kind of a quick turnaround there for the Colts. They go Saturday night, Chicago at home, Thursday night, Philadelphia on the road, and then in between there that week, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the Colts will be in Philly because of a joint practice on Tuesday going into that game on Thursday. So I know I threw a lot at you, but long story short, 13 open practices, and that's down from years past. But listen, it's still free. There's still plenty of opportunities to get out there, both during the week in the morning and on the weekends for some night practices and for some Sunday afternoon sessions. So basically, any time of day that you're available, the Colts do have a day part, if you will, open for practice. So excited for it, and it's here. Football's back.
Yeah, we can't wait. We'll try to get up there and do a show up there at least, Dustin. See if we can really rattle Matt's cage when we're up there. We make fun at him, yell at him from the sidelines.
Get a job, pal.
Well, I was going to, one thing, Matt, I think this is really cool that the Colts open this up. And I don't know how many teams across the NFL do this, but I think it's just a great opportunity, because in the NFL today, with the popularity, it's a tough ticket to get no matter where your team stands, how good they are. This is a great opportunity, not only to see, live NFL football, if you will, but a chance for, a lot of youngsters to get a chance to meet some of their heroes and some of the, whether they're new players or veterans. It's just a really cool experience. And like I said, I remember doing this when I was a kid, when, 20, 30 years ago, going and getting autographs. And it's just a really cool thing the Colts have done. I don't know how many NFL teams have adopted it, but I would encourage, if you have an interest in football, going to this thing, especially if you have kids, it's a really awesome experience.
No, I'm glad you said that, because the Colts, they're really one of the few teams left that are doing this. I mean, every team, and I mean, I think to each their own. I guess you prioritize different things, but the Colts really prioritize. I mean, it's a huge lift. I mean, it really is, to move everything from one location to the next. I know it's going from Indianapolis to Westfield, but regardless, it's still a huge undertaking to move all of the equipment, all of the training room. I mean, basically the entire staff goes from one location to the next. But the whole point of it is to have people be able to see this team up close in person, and give people an opportunity to see the team that normally wouldn't, because like you said, it's hard to go to an NFL game, both, financially, time obligations. It's just it's a lot. It really is. Parking. I mean, and I'm sympathetic to that. I really am. So it is. I mean, the Colts are one of the few teams left that go off site. I mean, there's going to be 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 fans at a lot of these practices. And a lot of teams now kind of shut it down. They do training camp at the team facility. They don't want, they don't want cameras there. They don't want, Hard Knocks to be there. And they don't want.
You never know. New England may show up with a camera.
That's right. That's right. So it really is fun. It's a great opportunity. And the Colts do such a good job of making it an event outside of practice, right? There's concessions, there's Colt City for the kids. There's a lot of marketing themes and giveaways they do for both the adult fans and the kid fans. So it really is a good time. And you can see, Shaq Leonard 20 feet away from you, right? You can see Anthony Richardson 20 feet away from you. You can see how he's developing. You can see how he's growing. You can see, with your own eyes, how he's interacting with coaches and players and taking instruction throughout the course of a practice. So that's really, really intimate that just not a lot of fan bases get the opportunity to do anymore. And I'd say take advantage of that. Get autographs after practice, like you said. I mean, we did it during COVID. It was good, but it just wasn't the same, right? It just wasn't the same. I mean, now you can be from me to you, right? Virtually, if you will, getting an autograph from one of your favorite Colts players. So it really is a great fan experience, and the Colts do it
favorite
very,
Colts
very well.
announcers?
Yeah, who's going to sign more autographs, me or Anthony Richardson? I think it's going to be neck and neck there, Jim. It's going to be.
Well,
neck
I do
and
know
neck.
one thing: you do not have the hops that Anthony Richardson has. Did you see that his basketball foray? And I was trying to figure out yesterday where was that? Was that the YMCA? Where was he playing?
Yeah, my guess is it was a YMCA in downtown Indianapolis, but that's just my best guess. But yeah, that was James Boyd, who does a great job covering the Colts for The Athletic. Really good dude. Was just going there to play some pickup hoop, and then boom, who does he see? Lo and behold, there's Anthony Richardson taking off from the foul line like he's Michael Jordan, right? Just jumping off both feet, covering about 10 feet in the air. So he does have some hops, and I'm drinking hops before training camp. That's the good comparison there.
Oh yeah, but one thing I did when he threw that down, I'm like, ooh, I don't know if the Colts are going to like that.
Yeah, he's definitely getting in some aerobics there. He's definitely getting some conditioning. But I mean, a guy who is that freakishly athletic.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
He can make anything look pretty easy though.
Absolutely. Philip Quicklin, Hard Knocks. The Jets did not want to be on Hard Knocks, but they don't have a choice. They want the action, baby, and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. All right, here's a hot take. Okay. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm the wrong guy to say this because I live it every day, and so I sort of see how the sausage is made, and it's not all that impressive to me. But have we jumped the shark on Hard Knocks? Like, do people still get jazzed up about Hard Knocks like they used to?
This is my opinion of it, Matt. People will consume football in any form, and the fact that it's in the summer before football starts, like I think if they aired this during the season, nobody would care anymore. But because it's in the summer, because you have that long stretch between the NFL draft and the start of the season, I think that's why people still watch it. That's my best guess. Right. I think you're right, because I couldn't even tell you the team last year that was the in-season Hard Knock story. I mean, I know they did it because 2 years ago it was the Colts. But to your point, I mean, once we start getting football Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then rinse, wash, and repeat, I don't know if we have enough capacity to consume more football that's not actually on our screens and we're not keeping score of. Does that make sense? I mean, I don't even know who that was, Hard Knock wise, during the season last year. I don't either.
What's up next for you, my friend?
Just trying to enjoy these last couple of weeks and weekends, getting away a little bit towards the end of this week and getting away a little bit towards the end of next week as well. And then training camp, like I said, coming up on the 26th. And then it is full steam ahead, 0 to 60, 7 days a week for 7 months. Let the grind begin.
Matt Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts. Can't thank you enough, my brother. We'll see you soon. All right, guys.
Yep. Be good. Good to talk to you, Dustin. Welcome back, man.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. And we'll be back right after this with Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's at
There he is.
Hey guys, how are you?
Schutte and Sinn.
You're going to mix us up again. Welcome to the show, Dustin Sinn.
Schutte Dustin.
There you go.
How are you, man? How you been?
I've been good. Apparently not as good as you, man. I don't think I've ever seen you more tan.
Yeah, I can't see it, but much different than my normal pasty white Irish skin.
Yeah. Oh God.
All right, Dylan, we talked about this last week. Coney Island and Fort Wayne. Is it still cash only? Do you know?
I don't know, honestly. I have not been there in quite some time. I know it's where we tell like people to go when they first come here, but I have not been there in quite some time myself. We've developed over the last couple of 5 to 10 years here, and there is now more than one restaurant in the city of Fort Wayne.
Running water, the whole thing?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
There's more than Coney Island and Pint and Slice.
Yes. Yeah. Pint and Slice takes card. I'll tell you that. I know that.
What's that?
Pint and Slice takes card. I will tell you that. They are not cash only.
The last time I went to Coney Island, the last time I was in Fort Wayne was probably 10 years ago. So I didn't know. And I don't even know how we got on the topic because all we talked about was food on last week or Monday. I don't remember. Days are running together. But I was describing Coney Island and I did not know if it was still cash only or if they had gotten with 2023 yet.
Yeah. No, I have not been there in quite some time. I feel bad. I should have an answer for you. That's my fault. I'm the Fort Wayne guy in the show, and I don't have an answer for you.
Well, I didn't bring it up on the radio portion, so we're good. I won't embarrass you when we go live.
All right.
Oh, don't foresee, John. Let's pull up the Never Lose Hoop thing when we come back.
Okay, yeah. Let me give me a second. I'll go ahead and get that ready.
Next Thursday, Schutte Dustin.
I'm coming. I don't know if I don't know if I'm playing, but I'll come down for the show.
Well, if you're not an A player, I don't want you. I need some ringers.
Then you don't want me. I can promise you that.
I'm kidding. I can make fun of you.
I will make you look better. Yeah.
That doesn't take much. That takes a lot. Wait a minute.
Yeah, it would take a lot. It would take a lot of me being bad.
It would take a lot. What have you been doing, Mr. Sinn?
Mostly tin cap stuff. They've been really good here lately, so that's been my main focus. I did kind of a breakdown of IU's roster at this point just a couple days ago, so I have that. I did one for Purdue earlier in the summer. So
actually, let's talk about both of them.
Yeah,
all right,
sure.
Here we go, guys.
Vision fatigue. You pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Thursday. Appreciate you being with us here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Dustin Schutte with me as always, and Dylan Sinn joining us from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. How's it going, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you as always for having me on, Jim. This is going to be fun.
Always. Have you been watching the Summer League?
I have a little bit, yeah. Just tough that Trace hasn't been able to play yet just because of that hamstring injury. The word last night was hopefully was the quote from Mike Dunleavy Jr. That he'll be able to play today. So that would be it would be nice to see him out there on the court. I know people are itching to see him play.
if he does get in, it'd be interesting how much he can play and what he's able to do there. So we'll be watching for that. Who do they play today?
The Warriors, I'm not sure. Good question. I know they played last night and they lost because the question was, okay, they might be able to play. They played the Mavericks last night. But yeah, they have another game, one more tonight, and I think that's it for their summer league schedule because it's only 4
Oh,
games.
so they're done today.
Yeah, this is the last one. So that's hopefully Trace can get in. We kind of see him on an NBA court for the first time, but he has his 4-year deal, so it won't affect anything for him going forward. He has his 4-year guaranteed contract.
Yeah, he's in great shape. So we'll look forward to that. Jalen Hitchafino has been playing, and I think he's had a pretty good summer league run so far. He's had a couple games where he scored points, other games where he's focusing on other things, whether it's just distributing the ball or whatnot. And that's what he has to focus more on, distributing the ball, playing defense. The scoring will come. The shooting, that'll come, I think. But just getting acclimated to this new level. It's another level. Everything's faster. Everything's stronger, bigger, jump higher, the whole deal. So it's just an acclimation process.
Yeah, he certainly hasn't seemed overwhelmed. I think that's the biggest thing is that for a guy who's as young as he is, he looks like he fits in out there. There have been a couple of times where he's honestly, he's fit in a little bit too well. There have been guys out there that he's made some passes that have hit guys basically in the head because they were open and they weren't looking for the ball because they didn't expect him to make the pass because they don't know that that's his specialty. Is he's going to find you if you're open. He's going to whip those passes cross court. And so I would expect that when he gets into the actual regular season and he has guys that have been in the league for a little bit longer playing around him, I would expect that some of those passes turn into some pretty nice highlights because he does have that court vision that we saw last year at Indiana. So, I really am encouraged by what I've seen from him. He still has the ability to finish with both hands. The shooting, like you said, will come. It's been a little bit hit or miss, obviously, so far, kind of like it was at IU, but there's nothing that tells me so far that he's not going to be able to play at this level.
You mentioned in the break that you've been looking at the rosters for not only Indiana but Purdue both. You'd already done that. Purdue is pretty easy because we know they've got everybody back. Virtually the same team as they had last year, which won the Big Ten tournament, flopped miserably in the NCAA tournament again, but they have a very, very strong and now experienced lineup.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is that it's mostly the same, but there's a few differences. The biggest differences are they brought in they have 3 new guys that they knew were going to have, but it's going to be different. So they have Will Berg, who's the 7'2" redshirt freshman. Cam Heide, who's the extremely athletic wing. We kept seeing him in warmups last year. Probably the best athlete on Purdue's team last season, taking off his red shirt this year. And then Miles Colvin, the son of Roosevelt Colvin, the former Purdue football great. He is going to be a true freshman this year, played for the USA U19 World Cup team. Those 3 guys, it creates a real kind of log jam in that rotation. It's really unclear how they're going to divvy up minutes because there are so many talented dudes on that roster. And even Trey Kaufman-Renn, Matt Painter said that they're going to try to play him at 4 a little bit this year because they like his scoring even off the wing, and they think he can be kind of a prototypical 3-and-D guy on the perimeter, and that wasn't a role we saw him play at all last year. So I think Purdue is it's the same personnel. I think they're going to play slightly differently this year. I would expect them to be a little bit more athletic. I would expect them to be somewhat more perimeter-oriented. I think that obviously getting the ball into Zach Edey is going to be a huge part of what they do. That's not going to change. He's going to go get probably 20 and 10 just about every night. But I do think there's going to be a little bit more talent on the perimeter, and I think they're going to be able to shoot just a little bit better this year than they did last year. And so my guess is, because last year they were 29 and 6. It's hard to improve on that. My guess is that their record is slightly worse this year, but they're actually a better team overall. Would be my guess. I think they'll compete for the Big Ten again, and I think they'll be right there at the end.
Well, there's no doubt they'll compete for the Big Ten, but
yeah, that's an interesting comment because we receive in our comments here we received Purdue's been figured out. and that they'll finish third in the Big Ten. That's a projection. But I guess my question is, Dylan, is this because the year Purdue got to the Elite Eight was they had a more of a motion offense. Matt Harms was able to move around the floor, and it created, guys were able to attack the basket. And obviously you had Carson Edwards, which makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Is that what you expect them to utilize Zach Edey? And I know I'm not there every day or anything, but in some of the videos that they're promoting or sending out via social media, I mean, Zach is behind the 3-point line, or he's taking free throw extended jumpers. Do you expect him to be moving more? Because last year it was, he was basically anchored down in the paint, get him the ball and see what happens. Do you expect a little bit more movement? Is that maybe the biggest change you're expecting this season?
There'll be a little bit more. I think Zach Edey is not Matt Harms, right? Matt Harms is a different kind of player, and Matt Painter
around.
Right.
What he's doing works.
That's true, right? But like Matt Painter makes a big deal about and has always emphasized, like, you fit your system to the personnel that you have. Matt Harms was a guy who was comfortable on the perimeter. He was a guy who was comfortable slashing to the rim. Zach Edey he's athletic. He's more athletic than people give him credit for, but he's still not that guy. His post touches are so efficient that they would be fools not to have him in the post on a regular basis, right? And so I think there will be some more of him on the perimeter just because that's what the NBA wanted, and I think they want him to just kind of be able to showcase his game a little bit more, and they'll experiment with it earlier in the season, see what happens, see what teams do with it. And I think that'll be an interesting wrinkle they can add because, as you said, the comment that you had was right, which is that they were figured out at the end of last season. I do think with the new personnel they have this year, I think it'll be a little bit different. I think teams will have to adjust slightly, and we'll see how long that takes to kind of adjust to.
But Nickel also makes a good point. They did have schedule advantages last year by virtue of having the easiest schedule in the Big Ten. And that hopefully will not be the case this year, but it will make a difference, although Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer are a year older and wiser, which is going to benefit Purdue. If you have a tougher schedule, that has to elevate too. So it's going to be interesting because you've got two definitive teams that are 1A and 1B with Michigan State and Purdue. And then Indiana, Indiana is a question mark, not because I don't think they're going to be good. They're just a question mark. You've got 6 new faces, all of which are going to be important players. So there's no way that people I know the fans would like to say, oh, Indiana's going to win this, win that. I'm not going to say that because I don't know jack about what they're going to do because of all the new faces.
Yes. I mean, absolutely, right? And we knew that going into this offseason, right? They had so much to replace, especially after Tamar Bates and Jordan Geronimo hit the portal. And they went out and they got players like Mike Woodson went out and got the players necessary to succeed. I think that's kind of the way I put it. He got the players necessary to succeed. Now he has to coach them up. Now he has to figure out how do these pieces fit together, because I think they do have the pieces. It's just a question of how long does it take Woodson to figure out how to put them together. And once he puts them together in the correct order, how long does it take that group to gel? And I think that those are the 2 biggest questions facing Indiana this year. I do think that they have a little bit more athleticism and talent than they did, significantly more athleticism and talent than they did a couple of years ago. I think Woodson is starting to get the players into the program and shaping it the way that he wants it to be. I think that's an unambiguous good thing. I think he's done a very good job with that. They're going to be much more perimeter oriented this year. We already heard Malik Renew say that there's going to be fewer post ups this year, although they'll still do a little bit of that. But we're starting to see Woodson's vision with the kind of the motion offense, the kind of the fast pace, get up and down, ball screen heavy, and then on defense switch everything and be versatile. I think that's kind of what we're starting to see. And now they have some of the guys in there that can do that. It's just a question of how long it takes to come together.
And Indiana has to learn how to win, because last year they had experienced Trace Jackson Davis. They should have won the Big Ten last year, even though they had the tougher schedule. They lost a game at Iowa that they had no right losing, and losing at home to Northwestern, losing at home to Iowa again. They lost to Iowa twice. They had every opportunity to win the Big Ten last year by sweeping Purdue and missing it by 1 game. So all these new faces, they're not all freshmen. but it's still, you've got a group that has not played in the Big Ten, has not played together, and that's going to take a minute to get that together.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And last year, IU got a little bit unlucky just because the timing of the injuries to Xavier Johnson, Race Thompson threw them for a loop right as the Big Ten season was getting underway. And that 1-4 start just kind of took them pretty much out of contention. But they were a Big Ten championship quality team last year when they were healthy. They just weren't healthy for most of the season. And I think that on that note, I think that Xavier Johnson is maybe the most important player in Indiana's roster this year. I'm not saying he's their best player. I'm not saying he's going to be the MVP of the team, but I'm saying he's the most important player because he's the guy with the experience in the backcourt there. I know Trey Galloway is in his 4th year now too, but Xavier Johnson is
the MVP of the team.
Right. He's the one with experience running the show. He's the one that's going to have to get everyone lined up. He's the one that's going to have to get everyone shots, right? And that was the thing is that when he first got here to IU in 2021-22, he was basically a guy who you could put the ball in his hands, and if the ball wasn't going to Trace, it was going to X. We all knew that, right? I don't think that's going to be the case this year. He's going to have to be more of a facilitator, more of a distributor, and make sure everyone gets the shots that they need. And that might cut into his own shots a little bit. I think we're going to have to see how well he does at doing that. I think that's going to be an adjustment for him because he's always been a score-first guy because he had to be. He was on teams that demanded that of him. I don't think this team is going to demand that of him. There's other scorers on this team. They're going to want him to get his own shot every once in a while. But most of the time, they're going to be wanting him to facilitate to Khalil Ware or Malik Renew or Mackenzie Mbako. And he's going to need to adjust to that. I think that's going to be huge as to how he does that and how long it takes him to do it.
I think the biggest question is going to be, what is Trey Galloway's role? Right. Because he's the number 2 guard, which is a scoring guard, but he has not been a scorer. And they already have a facilitator in Xavier Johnson. So what is his role going to be? I know what his role needs to be, but what is it going to be?
Right. And yeah, I think he has the capability to beat guys off the dribble and get to the rim. We saw that significantly more as when he was a sophomore than last year when he was a junior. I actually was a little bit disappointed last year that he didn't get to the rim more often. Now, part of that was because Trace was just so good that he didn't need to. But there were some games where they were struggling to get buckets, and I was wondering if he would try to take over the game, quite frankly. And I wonder if we'll see a little bit more of that this year. I think the biggest thing for him is that there's so much talent on the court around him in that starting lineup that he's going to need to knock down shots, right? They're going to need him to be, for all intents and purposes, they're going to need him to be Miller Kopp this year, right? He's going to get that level of
better Miller Kopp.
Right, exactly. He is going to get open shots because of the talent around him. And they're going to need him to knock those down. He knocked down 46% last year, but that was on low volume. They're going to need him around 40% at higher volume, I think, to be successful this year.
And Indiana has, with all these new faces, we don't know who's going to be what. Is it going to be Mbako? Is it going to be Khalil Ware? Is it going to be, oh gosh darn it, a name that's already there? I'm drawing a blank.
Malik Renew.
Malik Renew.
Yeah.
There are so many different options now. Indiana didn't have these athletic options last year.
Right.
So, and Xavier's got to get in tune with them, but so does Trey Galloway. But you've got other guys coming, Gabe Cupps, CJ Gunn. There's guys that we're not talking about that were already here as well. We don't know how well they've improved and what they can do. Can someone step up and push Trey Galloway for minutes, whether it's CJ Gunn or Caleb Banks? That they need scoring out of that number 2 spot without question. That's the difference between being an average team or better than average team and a really good team.
Right. And I think I was a little bit surprised they haven't been able to fill out that last guard spot, because I do think there's some minutes there available for someone that wants to come in. I would expect that they're still looking and trying to fill that out. But I'm fascinated by CJ Gunn. He is so athletic, and I know he struggled significantly last year, and there were times he didn't look like he really knew exactly what he was supposed to be doing on the court. But I think that there is star potential there. I think as athletic as he is, he could be a real boost to that offense if they can just get him the ball in space and let him attack the rim. And I'm fascinated to see if he can make a leap this year. I think he gets some significant minutes off the bench.
Cannot thank you enough, my friend. Look forward to it again. I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jim. Always glad to be on.
Dylan Sinn, Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. We'll look forward to him again. We've got more coming up. Be back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market.
Oh. John's morning coffee.
I tell you what, it's pretty good this morning. I skipped my coffee yesterday.
You skipped it in general? Did you have a headache?
No, I did. I had one cup in the afternoon. I just didn't have any morning coffee yesterday. But actually, I did have a headache yesterday. Now that you mention it, I didn't even think about the correlation between the two.
If I get to a certain point in the day and I haven't had coffee, I'm going to have a headache the rest of the day.
I think it's because I had 4 cups the day before yesterday, which was absolutely
all caffeinated.
No, the first two were half calf. The third one was full calf, and the fourth one was half calf.
Jeez, that's a lot of calf.
That's why I drink half calf, because I drink so much coffee. It allows me to not feel as bad if I, have a day where I drink 4 cups.
Right. What is happening?
Yeah, just making sure everything was.
I just muted him for a second.
I'm gonna have a banana.
I ordered a I don't know what you call it. I guess it's an adapter, that mic adapter yesterday. So hopefully I'll have that new microphone ready for next week.
I need to get one. When's that coming out? Friday?
Oh, the one from this week? I think I'm going to release it tomorrow.
Yes.
All right, I'm muted Jim, I think. He's not back at his seat yet, but I don't hear him on the phone, so.
Okay, I'll talk at you. Thank you.
Oh, now I hear him. I think he's coming back.
Yeah, it's making sure the economy's all right.
All right. 30 seconds.
Golf Club is located next door to Southern Stone Restaurant on Patterson and Rogers. It's one of the most popular gathering spots in Bloomington. Whether you're out on a date with your spouse, friends, or coworkers, Feast Market and Cellar offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. Thanks a lot for being with us. Schutte Dustin with you, as always. If you have the opportunity, make sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB or at Schutte Dustin. We appreciate it. And if you're missing any episodes, you can always go back and catch it on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe, notifications, and the like buttons for us as well. Just finished up with Dylan Sinn. Great discussion about the Big Ten basketball coming up. Of course, Mike DeCourcy will join us in the next segment, and I'm looking forward to talk. There's plenty to talk to him about, but we'll start with Northwestern and their situation with football, and the saga over at West Virginia with Huggy Bear. We talked about this yesterday. It's almost preposterous, but I didn't resign. My wife sent that letter in.
I mean, it's a sad state. It really is.
I mean, my dog ate it. My dog ate my homework. Really, are we that ridiculous? But I understand we're talking about the reason he's doing that. We're talking millions of dollars.
Yeah, but he doesn't.
They fired with cause. No, that's Northwest. That's Northwestern. Northwestern is trying to say that they fired for cause, and there was the agreement that was made, the 2-week suspension, and then all of a sudden, boom. So it's going to be a mess, and
yeah,
they're not going to. I don't think either of the schools are going to win those.
It's going to be tough. I don't know. I feel like Northwestern is going to be on the losing side of that, and I don't know why. But the independent investigation seemed to allude to the fact that they knew that some of these, or
No,
that he knew.
It said the opposite. It said they did not. They found no evidence that they did know. But what cracked me up is they said there were opportunities for them to know. Well, what the hell does that mean?
Right. So, what I'm saying is they knew that the investigation discovered that hazing was happening pretty accurately as to what was alleged was going on. So I don't know if it entails that fired without or fired with cause. I don't know the legality of all of that. It's going to be interesting to see how all that unfolds. That's a sad situation because Pat Fitzgerald, we all thought of the most upstanding coaches, of the guys that you thought ran a quote unquote clean program, wouldn't have any issues. I would put Pat Fitzgerald near the top of college football's list. And obviously that was not the case. And it just goes to show that, I'm not going to mention the scenario, but obviously over a decade ago, we saw that situation unfold in Penn State, where you would have put Joe Paterno on the ultimate list of good guys in college football. And that obviously wasn't the case. So,
well, that's a different situation too, because apparently there was some knowledge of something there.
Right.
That came back different, where there was some knowledge, and that's
and
a whole different scenario.
That's a whole different scenario, and I'm not trying to compare the two. My point with that comparison was this stuff can happen anywhere. It doesn't matter what you see from the outside perspective. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We can assume, but you just never know. The Bob Huggins thing to me is bizarre in the sense that if he has been given so many chances, and I've made this comment before, if I don't give a damn had a face, it would look like Bob Huggins, because a Hall of Fame career is just crashing down and burning.
Doesn't it? How many times has this happened though? I mean, how many coaches can you throw that out to that has happened? And it's sad to see. You don't ever want to see it, but it happens too many times.
It does.
In different scenarios, but it's just not good.
Right. And this, for him to backpedal and say, no, I didn't send that letter, I didn't resign. I understand why. You're right. There's millions of dollars at stake here. But I hate to get into the financial side of it, because you never know what somebody's situation is. But I got to imagine that Bob Huggins doesn't need that money. I could be completely wrong. I don't know. But it's just a sad state. There's a lot. When we talk about the summer months going by slow, the last month has been crazy in terms of Northwestern and West Virginia. And by the way, I never thought that this ties in too a little bit, but again, Bob Huggins is a guy that you think, but Hall of Fame coach, you don't expect these sort of things to be happening. I guess he had a prior record for some of this stuff, so maybe it's not that surprising. I don't know. Just at this stage in his career, all that he's gone through, it's just sad to see that Hall of Fame career end the way it has.
And something else I'm going to talk to, we'll talk with Mike when he joins us, but with Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 for the SEC, the Bedlam series, yesterday at the Big 12 Media Days, Mr. Mullet said that for all practical purposes, that it's over after this year.
That doesn't surprise me. Why would I don't know. I get it for the fan perspective.
You had the end. The funny thing is, one series that had ended will now be restarted probably, but does Texas and Texas A&M restart that series on a yearly basis now that Texas is joining the SEC, or do they just let it get thrown into the schedule combine?
I'd have to look, but I thought that and I don't know this, I don't know if this was part of the protected rivalries, but I thought that the SEC released that they're going to continue the 8-game schedule. And I don't know if they are continuing their protected rivalries or not. It would be interesting. I don't know the answer to that.
They're doing the 8-game schedule for now. That could change a year from now.
That's because not change.
They're going to have to. There's no way you can keep adding teams and hell, you're playing half the conference.
I know they're playing. Well, let's see, 16 teams. Well, they're playing. Yeah, I guess they are playing half the conference, but I don't know. They've seemed to be pretty hard pressed on not adding a 9th game or a 10th game or anything of that nature. Most
of the coaches are, because they want, especially, and I get it, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, the schools that are on below the elite. They want those 4 non-con games because they're looking for those 4 wins. That means all they have to do is beat Vanderbilt or Kentucky or whoever the worst teams are on their schedule. They have to win 2 conference games. I think it is utterly ridiculous that you can get into a bowl game by winning 2 conference games.
Right, going 2-6. Yeah, I mean, at the same level, 3-5 isn't much better, but at least you're closer to 500. I'd like to see. We've had this conversation about the NCAA tournament. I think teams have to finish in a certain spot in the or be above 500 in their conference to make the NCAA tournament. And Mike DeCourcy disagrees with that, and he brings up some good reasons. In football, I think you should have to have a 500 record in your conference too. But there's way too many bowl games for you to fill enough spots, I think. So therein lies the problem. I don't know. It's hard for me to believe the SEC is going to change. Maybe they will. Maybe there'll be a media rights. I mean, that's what changed for the Big Ten. They wanted to add a 9th game. They decided that they were going to do that. They reaped the benefits of a large financial commitment from multiple networks. I mean, the Big Ten's still the leader on this. It's just they're winning financially where the SEC is winning national championships. So I don't know. Maybe the SEC doesn't see the benefit of adding a 9th game because they still can't compete with the Big Ten in terms of the finances. I don't know the answer to it, but it's kind of bizarre. I don't know why conferences are, especially with the expanded playoff, I don't know why conferences are going away from playing more conference games. You'd think it'd be more appealing, and there's less repercussion if you lose one of those games, right? Because you're the 12 teams, got a better chance of getting in.
Who's your daddy making a comment that Chris Leatlam has re-entered the portal? The Harvard guard who had committed to Tennessee, a former Indiana target, which they still happen to have an open spot. And although it's kind of late, it's probably not too late. Does Indiana make a run at him again with the open spot? Especially he's a grad transfer, so he would just be a 1 year. And if they can get him, it's a why not? Why would you not? I mean, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it is one of the phrases I use in life. You know, it's better to be prepared. And so it's not too late, but do they get into that fray? Do they open up the possibility of adding someone here in?
Why would you not?
July. That's my point. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't with the open spot, especially a talent like that. I mean, I just finished talking about that very position, and here's a way to make not only a good addition, but you're creating competition, and that is. We talked about how deep Indiana appeared to be last year.
Yeah,
nothing. That's nothing compared to this team right here. They seem to be greatly deeper.
I think in terms of talent, my guess is, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, but my expectation is the starting rotation is probably not going to be as talented as it was a year ago, But in terms of the depth on the bench, I think they're probably going to get more production and be more balanced, because we talked like last year, we saw and we talked about, man, this team is deep. This team can play 12 guys and you're going to get contributions. How many times that wasn't true? And I know they battled injuries, but how many times did that bench get 6 points or less in a game? I mean, it was not good. And I understand that there's a lot of young kids on that team, but they had to rely way too heavily on their starting rotation.
And they didn't get enough out of their own starting rotation.
Right. At times throughout the season, that was a big hindrance. And again, we know that X went down. We know Trace Jackson Davis battled some things. There were other players that, had some things pop up. But I do think that you're going to have a more balanced team, and you're not going to have to depend so heavily on that starting rotation. So I
don't know that they have. Well, obviously they're not going to have a Trace Jackson Davis, but I don't know that they're going to have one player that is game in, game out. Someone you expect it's going to be the high scorer. Last year, you expected Trace Jackson Davis to be the leading scorer every game.
Yeah,
I don't see that this year. I don't know that you have that guy, that's not a bad thing. And because I'm saying it could come from Mbako, it could come from Khalil Ware, it could come from Malik Renew, it could come from Xavier Johnson on a particular game. Who knows who it's going to be? But I don't think it's going to be the same guy game in, game out, and that is great news for Indiana fans, or would be.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's always great, and don't get me wrong, it's great to have that type of player in Trace Jackson Davis that you can depend on every single game and you know what you're going to get. It's great to have that kind of player. But there's also something to be said for having that balance and defenses having to account for everybody on the floor. And I just think in previous seasons, we talked about it at times last year that sometimes defenses didn't respect Trey Galloway. Sometimes they didn't respect Miller Kopp. Whether they weren't getting open or whether there weren't sets run for them, whatever the case might be, it was basically let's we'll double team Trace, or we'll allow Trace to get his, and we're not gonna let anybody else beat us. So I just think this is going to be a completely different team. I don't think that they have that one guy. And by the way, I meant to mention this with Dylan, but I think that if you had to pick a guy to come back as a leader for this team, Trace Jackson Davis is a great leader, but I think you want it to be your point guard, right? Don't you want it to be the guy who's going to be a distributor? So I think on that front,
it's your quarterback, man.
I think on that front, Indiana's in a much better position than they were a season ago, because I don't know that X was quite as mature. He seems like he continues to get more mature the longer he's been at Indiana. And so having that floor general, having that quarterback with his kind of floor vision, I think he's a guy that, okay, you know what? Nobody else is scoring. I'm going to go get us 25, and I'm going to try to will us to win. Or Trey Galloway's having a great game. Let's get him 10 shots today. Whatever the case might be, I think having that guy, having him back is a huge advantage for Indiana.
And Andy makes a good point before we take a break that he's not sure he agrees with that. He likes the diversity, but great teams typically have a guy. And that guy's probably going to be Xavier Johnson. It just might not be in the scoring column.
That's what I would say too. I think Xavier Johnson is that guy. I just don't think he's going to be the leading scorer every single game.
There's another question as we go to break. If you're down 2 with 10 seconds to go, who do you want taking that shot? We'll talk about that and a lot more when we come back, as Mike DeCourcy will join us coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's
all right.
Never lose hope.
I've had it pulled up. I've just been waiting for you to mention it.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Let me tell you, I am so sore from that kickboxing workout.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you say?
I said I'm so sore from that kickboxing workout I did yesterday.
Kickboxing workout? Whoa. How did this not get talked about until now?
I didn't bring it up till now. I've been working off I've been trying to untie the knot. is why I didn't talk about it.
Where did this kickboxing take place?
In Avon. It wasn't a class where you like kick people in the face. It was just like a workout that's centered around.
I kick him in the face.
I can't get my leg up that high. Ugh.
I kick you in the face. Well, I've got my, I got a new smartwatch.
Yeah. Did you figure it out?
Now it's too much. I'm like, whoa. Too many things coming in now.
Yeah.
So now I got to go back the other way. Dave, I give you a great steak place. It's called Chop Shop, located right next door to BB's on South College. There you go, Dave T. Go to the Chop Shop. Great steakhouse. I mean, great steaks. You can have them cut your own, as a matter of fact. You can tell them how thick you want it. One of the first places I'm going as soon as I get back to B-Town.
There you go.
I cannot wait. Did you break the rice paper, grasshopper?
I did not.
Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. Wax on.
I did not do karate.
All right. Yes, David, it is, but they're not a sponsor of ours. Plus, it's not as good. Texas Roadhouse is not. Chop Shop is legit, dude. Chop Shop is legit. I'm talking a real steakhouse here. Not a
There
chain.
you go. Mike should be on momentarily.
With quality, local, and organic food as their main focus, Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious, 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Mohonda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, and we are so very fortunate to have the great Mike DeCourcy joining us. Like, his timing is impeccable. How are you, sir?
I am well, gentlemen. How are you?
I cannot complain. Nobody wants to hear it. And we don't let Dustin complain about anything.
Exactly.
Are you traveling? Still on vacay?
I am back home, but I have some people in the house working on the house. So I'm up in my alternative office, which is a bedroom.
Lovely. Well, that's always a great place. Great to see you again. Was it a good vacation?
Oh, unbelievable. Went back.
I know it was needed. They're always needed.
Yes. My wife and I traveled to Barcelona and Lisbon. And it was my first time back in Barcelona since the 92 Olympics, where I didn't really get to see the city. I mean, I saw it, but I didn't get to experience it because I covered boxing at the Olympics. And boxing at that point, I don't know if it's changed, but in the 2 Olympics I covered, 92 and 96, boxing runs every day of the Olympics but one. Wow. There's one day off. And so other journalists who've covered the Olympics, I did this and I did that. And I did boxing. That's all I did. So I didn't really get to see Barcelona in the way I would have wanted. So we went back and it was spectacular. And then my wife's idea was, I'm sorry?
Did you make it to Pamplona?
No. My wife's idea was to pair it with a trip to Lisbon, which I am reluctant to tell, but everybody who listens to this show is a friend. So I will share this with all of our friends, and that is that Lisbon and Portugal in general are the best kept secrets in travel. That it is spectacular. Just beautiful. I've never seen more beautiful scenery than I saw in Portugal, and the people were wonderful, amazing. And I've never experienced this before in my life, but there were times when I felt guilty at the low prices I was being charged.
Oh my!
For dinner or for souvenirs. I'm like, really? You don't want more? Like, you never have that. The only thing that costs money is soda. Like if you're a Diet Coke or Coke, over there it's Coke Zero. If you're into that, they hit you for that. But that's it. I mean, when we took our Uber from our hotel, which was on the southwest riverside of Portugal, to the airport, our Uber was €13, excuse me.
Wow,
like it is here.
It was just unbelievable. It is such a beautiful place. I highly recommend traveling to Portugal if you're wondering.
I'm adding Lisbon to my list of places to go.
Either.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't say enough nice things about it. It's just fantastic.
Well, I'm glad you got to enjoy that. I asked about Pamplona because I think that was going on while you were there.
Yes, I had a friend or an acquaintance, Mark Fox, the coach who was the coach at Georgia, was the coach at Cal for a while, was the coach at Nevada, and I follow him on Twitter or was it Facebook? I don't know, but anyway. He posted pictures from Pamplona, so I didn't realize that it was going on at the time. It is not super close to Barcelona, but we could have if we'd wanted. We could have taken a train up as the second leg of our trip. But I'm glad we went to Lisbon. It was fantastic.
That's awesome. Well, while you were gone, there was nothing happened in the sports world. It stopped and shut down, waiting for you to return. Unfortunately, Pat Fitzgerald didn't get the memo. Bob Huggins didn't get the memo. And that's, I guess, a good starting point. Not good, but two different situations. But obviously, Big Ten Football Media Day is coming up in a couple of weeks. So that's a big hit for Northwestern. A surprise because Northwestern is kind of looked at as they're always going to be a good school. Nothing's going to happen there because it's just a really, really great college. But things happen everywhere, unfortunately.
Yeah, I really struggle to understand the mentality that goes into creating these circumstances. I realize I did not play college football, but I just don't know where I didn't join a fraternity either. I find this stuff so juvenile and so stupid, and why anybody who is a educated person, and if you're going to Northwestern, I mean, you're an educated person, being more educated every day, but you're an educated person. Why an educated person would involve themselves in stupidity like this is just beyond me. I can't understand it. As far as the coaching is concerned, my position on that is simple. If it happened one time, it's not the coach's fault. Something like this is not the coach's fault. Now they've got to make sure it doesn't happen a second time, but it's not the coach's fault it happened. But what the Northwestern student paper reported was not that it happened one time, but instead was a multi-year circumstance that affected lots of players one way or the other, and involved lots of players one way or the other. And that's just, at that point, whether or not you knew is not an excuse now. Because if it goes on for a while, then you've got to know. You have to know what's going on inside your locker room. Things happen, and then part of the job of the people who do things that aren't within the boundaries of propriety or rules or whatever, part of their task then is to make sure that the authorities don't find out. But if it goes on and on and on, there have now been too many opportunities for the authorities, in this case, the head football coach, to learn of it and to put a stop to it. And there's
no way you don't know what's going on.
I don't know whether he said he didn't. And so I'm not going to call him a liar, but I'm going to say that that's not a good enough excuse.
You're right.
You've got to know what things that are persistent that are inside your program, whatever they might be. One-time things are going to happen, but culturally persistent circumstances, your job is to know those sorts of things.
And I didn't play college football either. I played high school football, of course, and back when you didn't have the rules with everything, water, you didn't have to give us water back then or all that stuff. But my point is, that's hard enough. That sport itself is hard enough. It's 2-a-day practices. You go through all that. That's all the bonding you need. That's all the commitment you need to show. Because let me tell you, when you go through that stuff, you're committed. You're getting your sacrifice. That hurts. It's hard. And to go through all that, you don't need to do more. I don't get the young me probably would not have had this opinion because I was young and dumb. But now that I'm older and dumb, I can acknowledge that, no, I agree with you 1,000%. No, you don't need to do that. You've already made the commitment. You don't need to show more of a commitment.
Well, and you've left out, you mentioned 2 days in practice and games, but you've left out been on the track or on the field running. What's the acceptable term now? And I don't even if they run. Run lines, let's call it. We had some terms that we used that probably aren't the best terminology now, but you run lines or you run distance on the track or you're in the weight room and all that time. There's so much physically and mentally invested and film room and skull sessions, all that stuff that's required for you to be performing at an elite level. Like you said, if you see athletes that aren't committed enough by your estimation and you're a team leader, you can take care of that stuff. You can say, hey, I'm the team leader, I'm the team captain, or I'm an associate captain or whatever. I go to the coach and say, hey, Joe ain't getting it done. He's not getting it done. He will not have our back when the 60 minutes are going on. He's not getting it done. That's your job. You're the team captain. You're allowed to do that. It's not your job to take and do these silly things, these awful things. That's not your job. And take the punishment into your hands. It's coach's job to discipline athletes. As a team captain, you are certainly within your rights to say, this young man is not doing it the way he needs to do it. Let's try to get him on board. And if he doesn't get on board, let's deal with that then. But that's not what happened.
I think, too, I wanted to ask your opinion on this, Mike. I was surprised, not that Pat Fitzgerald was fired. I was surprised at how quickly Northwestern moved on that, given his tenure at Northwestern. And I feel like there's really one of two routes schools or professional teams, whatever it might be, take today. And that's one, either we're going to immediately react to the reaction, or we're going to sit and wait for all the reaction to die down, because we live in such a society, a microwave society, where in a week are people still talking about this. And so I was curious to get thoughts. I was surprised how quickly they moved. Were you surprised at how quickly they made that decision to let Pat Fitzgerald go?
Well, let's not forget they initially, after their own investigation, decided to suspend him for a couple of weeks and take a couple of weeks' pay off him. And then when they learned that this circumstance was more profound maybe than they knew, or it became public how profound it was, I think that they realized that wasn't the sufficient. In one way or another, they realized that wasn't a sufficient reaction. So I don't know that they moved super quickly. They moved super quickly relative to the report, but this wasn't all new news to them. At least the existence of this circumstance, they had some awareness of it. Whether or not they had awareness of the depth of it, the breadth of it, we can't know. But they had some awareness of of the circumstance, and so I think that it was the wise thing to do at the point that they reached. Again, when the reports came in from, is it the Daily Northwestern? Is that what they call the student paper? When that came out, at that point, like I said, ignorance was not a defense,
right?
Because it wasn't just, hey, this one thing happened or these two things happened, isolated incidents. This was not the paper's journalism did not present this as isolated incidents, and so therefore the only rational approach for the school at that point was to make a move.
And then you've got the situation that now they're money-wise because of the agreement, and we'll let the attorneys figure that out. We've got Bob Huggins, his situation, which is now turning into a money situation as well over at West Virginia with the greatest excuse ever. My dog ate my homework and my wife sent in my resignation letter without my permission or knowledge. That's an all-time great one there.
It's a strange circumstance for sure, but I don't think if there had not been a resignation letter in the time frame that it was presented, there would have been a termination letter presented in the opposite direction from the university. That's my opinion. That's my analysis of the situation. He resigned because the resignation. I shouldn't say it. The resignation was the best resolution to this circumstance for everyone. It was the best for West Virginia because they didn't want to fire someone who was an alum, who was an athletic department hero as a player and as a coach, who had a graduate degree, I believe, from the school and an undergraduate degree from the school, someone that they valued as a representative of their school. He's a legend at West Virginia. They don't want to fire a legend, but they also can't have him continue after the two circumstances that developed this year. So the best for and if you're Bob Huggins, it doesn't help you in any way other than perhaps financially, which at this point, let's be honest, he doesn't need help financially. No one's ever going to turn down money, but it's not going to change his life. It's not going to change his kids' lives to be paid for this season or the season beyond or any of that. It's not going to appreciably change their lives. So it's, I think at this point, I think it's somewhat a mistake for Bob to allow this to become part of his legacy. It was difficult enough on the night in June when he was arrested for DUI that would be the end point of his career. That's difficult enough. But then to compound it through this absurdity, it doesn't do him any favors. There was no win available for Bob Huggins by declaring that he had not resigned. Even if he got more money, it's not a win. Right. Because, look, you can be a Hall of Fame coach and still have your legacy tainted beyond or deconstructed beyond what the end of your career or the near end of your career. We saw it happen to Woody Hayes. Woody Hayes, one of the great football coaches in American history. What do people remember? I mean, that's the question. What do they remember Woody for? Beating Bo? Yeah, that's what they remember. And now Bob is saying,
Bob Knight.
Bob is saying, remember me for this, instead of cradling Deshaun Butler's head in his arms on the floor in Indianapolis in 2010, or dealing with the aftermath of Kenyon Martin's broken leg in 2000, or making the Final Four on multiple occasions, or winning over 900 games. They're going to remember this circumstance, which was unflattering on the night it occurred, and it's getting more and more so as the weeks go along, instead of it becoming the old, I'm married to one of the great public relations people in America, Deborah DeCourcy. And the number one thing in public relations is when you have a negative story, don't let a one-day story become a two-day story or a three-day story. Bob is turning a two-day story, DUI arrest resignation, into a summer-long story. That is not doing him any favors at all.
Well, J.D. Campbell was with us just yesterday, and he said a great intuitive thing. He said PR. PR stands for protect reputation. And that could not have been more very proposed. I was like, wow, that is very, very good. So, but we'll talk more about what Mike DeCourcy is with us from the Sporting News. We've got more coming up. Looking forward to talking to you. Keep the questions coming. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market.
I was going to next talk about with Northwestern's situation, but IU, Rutgers, with all these changes coming, how Northwestern was already a tough job. Did it just get tougher having this change now as UCLA and USC are getting ready to join, or is this not a good time for a change? But it's how are these teams going to compete in the Big Ten going forward? Whether it's Northwestern, Indiana, Rutgers, it's just the gap is getting a little wider, it seems.
Well, it's hard to say because, the gap already existed between Indiana and Ohio State. I mean, they have been competitive at times. We had the great game a couple of years ago, but the gap's always existed there. You can look at the records and see that. But I think it makes for more traffic. You're still going to struggle to compete with Ohio State, but there are more people trying to compete with Ohio State, so to speak. So I think that programs like IU are going to have their up years and their down years, and you just try to get to those up years and enjoy them while you have them, like they did in 2020. Embrace that, enjoy it for what it is, and try to sustain it for as long as you can. But there's very little that's going to make Indiana football Ohio State football. There's 100,000 seats in Ohio Stadium. There's about 65 at IU. That right away is reflective of the difference between the two programs.
I'm going to save my questions for on air about this, except for have you been to Prague?
No, I've heard it's great. It's that's one I haven't been to. Yeah.
You talk about Lisbon being beautiful, so I'm going to add that to my list. But Prague is. I went on a European trip, and when I was in college, and Prague was breathtaking, and that was in the winter.
Yeah,
I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah, we when we were a decade ago. We sort of dialed back our traveling because we were tired from working so hard. Sure. And so like in 2012, I think the Euro soccer tournament was in Poland, and we should have made the trip, but it was going to be like you had to connect twice. We should have gone to Poland and to Prague, and we blew it. And we just went to the beach instead because we were tired. And I'm not saying we're not both still working hard, but we realize now that the opportunity to take those kinds of trips is, you got to take it when you can. So we've been with the last.
Here we go, guys.
Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, July 13th. Appreciate you being with us. Man, there's so much to talk about. Mike DeCourcy is with us, Dustin Schutte as well. Mike, there's so many great things to talk about. Wanted to talk quickly in the break. I mentioned with all the changes coming in the Big Ten, the money coming in that's going to change, going to continue to get bigger. UCLA, USC coming in, programs like Indiana, Northwestern, Rutgers, they have to make a decision. I'll just speak on Indiana. They have to make a conscious decision to invest in football if they want to remain competitive in the Big Ten, I think. But I don't know what that entails. I'm not going to pretend that I have the answers because I don't. There's a lot of finances involved there, but they cannot operate as Indiana has operated. There's a reason they're the worst program in the history of Division I football, and they've got to do something to move forward. I don't know what that is, but
Well, I think first of all, you have to understand that the landscape has changed, is changing, and may continue to change. And one of the things that is important now is, for lack of a better term, player compensation. And whether that is restricted to name, image, and likeness payments, or eventually becomes employer-employee. I'm not in favor of employer-employee. I don't think it serves either side well, and I also think it's a muddled mess. I mean, okay, so who's an employee and who's not at a Division I athletic department? Is the golfer an employee? They're not generating any money at all, really. I mean, because I don't even know if they sell tickets to those tournaments, and if they do, they're not selling a ton. Is a high school football player an employee now? Then if we go in that direction, because every time I've ever gone to a high school football game, I bought a ticket. So is that person like, where are we drawing this line? But exempting that, you've got name, image, and likeness, and you've got these collectives that are set up to bring in talent through name, image, and likeness payments. And how effective each school is at attracting talent will be tied, at least in some way, to how effective they are at building an NIL apparatus. Whether it's, when I say they, I don't mean just the athletic department. At that point, I'm talking about the whole university community, from the fan base, from including the local businesses and all of that are invested in the success of those schools and their athletic teams. That's it. You have to be adept at that. You have to be doing well at that. If you're not, then you're going to lose talent based on that. And we've seen Kentucky, even one of the absolute best basketball programs, probably the best basketball program in NCAA history, struggle with that at times and try to sort of conquer, how do we do this and how do we not do this? How do we want to do this? And I think they've lost talent at times because they have tried to take a more I'm not sure the exact phraseology, a more restrained approach, let's say, to name, image, and likeness and involvement in that, while others have fully embraced it and have attracted talent as a result. So I think that's a big part of what, whether it's IU or Purdue or anybody else in the Big Ten. We're going to see that be a part of it. I mean, I read a piece, and I've spoken to Mick Cronin about name, image, and likeness at UCLA, and they're still working to get up to speed on that. They have won more NCAA men's basketball championships than anybody. And let me tell you something. If you ever make a trip, if IU goes out to UCLA sometime in the Big Ten's near future, and you go along, you're going to go, why did I not go to college at this place? It is so gorgeous. It's ridiculous. So he's got all that, but name, image, and likeness circumstance, they're still trying to get up to speed, and they probably lost talent as a result. So those are the things that are going to help make IU more competitive in the Big Ten and in college football generally.
Does it hurt UCLA and USC because they're in Los Angeles, which sounds dumb on the face to say that, but they get lost almost because there's so much there. It's so big. There are so many sports. It's hockey. They love everything out there. Basketball, it doesn't matter.
Well, I think it at times, if they're not competitive, it hurts their attendance. I mean, there's so many other things you can do with your time in Southern California. You're not going to go watch a 500 or fighting to be above 500 basketball team at either place. That hasn't been the case too often recently for the Bruins or Trojans, but it was not long ago, maybe in the later Steve Alford years at times that. So I don't think it from that standpoint. And I also think that, there's a lot of business in Southern California. So I think that can help them. Look, their economies are bigger than some states just in the LA area. So it can help as well as hinder. I think it's more about just sort of what you want to do and how you want to do it and who do you involve and how do you get it going. And I think that there have been some schools that have been at the forefront of that and have really rung up talent as a result. And I think there are other schools that have been a little bit slower to embrace the reality for whatever reason, because their boosters maybe think, you know what, we're good old State U. We don't need to do that to get guys. And you know what? You do, because that's who you're competing against.
Well, and just 4 or 5 years ago, what's interesting to me on this whole thing is 4 or 5 years ago, every coach went into a program, into a college, into a job, basically with the idea of we want to build a program. And I'm not saying that they've steered away from that, but it feels like on the football side, there are teams that have that access to the NIL. They have the NIL support, the Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson, Alabama, the list goes on, where they can build programs. To me, it seems like a place like Indiana, Northwestern, Rutgers, you almost have to build a team year by year and depend heavily on recruits and the transfer portal, because we saw last year with Dason McCullough at Indiana. He got a better opportunity at Oklahoma, more money was involved, and he's gone. And so I feel like it's even more difficult today for some of these schools in these major conferences that don't have the history, the tradition, the assets for them to build an actual program. They just almost have to go year by year.
No, it's an excellent point, and I think you're 100% right. But I do think that in terms of, there are certain elements where you do have to remain building a program. What the way you approach things, what you want to be, how you keep foolishness out of your locker room, all those sorts of things. You want to build that. But in terms of the roster management, you do have to be more year to year at particular places. Absolutely. And I think that's why we've seen some of the traditional schools in basketball. I'm going back to my wheelhouse. Some of the traditional schools have struggled a little bit with this, while those that have not been as traditional and are like in Alabama, where they have been able to jump on the trend very quickly, and they're not looking backward, because they've not been bad, but there's not that much. I don't think they've ever made the Final Four at Alabama. They've been in the Elite Eight. That's as far as it's gone. They've won the SEC recently, but they've been able to say we don't have to worry about how we used to do it, because we've never done it great. We've just done it well. So let's look forward and try to do it great. And that's how they've been able to do it year to year, getting players in there. They had a very young team this past season. Some of the players that could have returned and should have returned didn't return. So they had to be proactive about getting more players in there. And again, they have done really well in the NIL space and the recruiting space, and they've been able to replenish to the point where they'll probably be highly competitive again this year.
We have not talked baseball yet. We're just finished the All-Star break, and the Cincinnati Reds in the lead of the Central Division in the National League. But something I was looking at, Mike, that's just so wild in both Central Divisions, which we know those are the small market teams and the weakest divisions, but both the Reds, who are leading the National League Central, and Cleveland, who leads the American League Central, in the negative for run differential.
Run differential, yeah. I look at those numbers. It's astonishing that they
blows my mind.
I think they're 50 and 40 now. Is that right? 50 and 40. And they are still negative run differential. That is astonishing. And I don't know how it's still in place. You look at Atlanta and you see their run differential, and it's
oh my God, it's crazy.
It's mind-boggling. It is. It's almost like they should give them the trophy now just for putting that together.
And Tampa Bay's right there. They've actually plus 149 right now. So both of those teams. I mean, you look at the class of each league, but. Man, but how about Eli De La Cruz and what he has done as with his youth? I mean, the things that he's accomplished already. He missed when he hit the cycle. That was 1 day short of the record for fewest games ever. He then steals second, third, and home on 2 pitches. Hadn't been done in 102 years. This is not coincidence. This guy is different and special, man.
Oh, he really is. And My wife was asking me when we were on vacation and we saw the thing about him stealing second, third, and home. How did the Reds get him? And I went and I didn't know. I mean, I knew he was, because of his background. I knew that they'd signed him as a undrafted free agent. That's how you get players out of the Caribbean. But $65,000 they signed him for. Can you imagine that? I mean, if this continues, he will become the greatest signing. If this continues for 5 years, he will become the greatest signing in maybe in the history of baseball. Free agent, undrafted free agent. And I'm not talking about the era when that was the only way you got guys. But since there was a draft, which was around 60 or so, 65 or whatever. Since there was a draft, to be able to go out and sign a player with this talent and this impact for $65,000 is just staggering. I'm looking forward to seeing more journalism about how that all went down, how they found him, because I think there's still some stories to be told about that. But he is breathtaking to watch. He really is. He is the baseball player equivalent of the Portugal coast. That's what he is.
Well, and then you've got Shohei Ohtani, who is he going to become? I don't know if he's going to exceed what the judge signed for, but oh my, people are going to be begging to sign him, but there's only going to be few teams that have the money to be able to sign that dude.
I was thinking about this. I saw a headline that said, "Will he become a $600 million player?" And I thought about it, and I said, okay. So you give him $600 million to sign him, but the Angels have had him now for 3 years, and he's fantastic. He's amazing, but they have him and Mike Trout, and they don't win. So, is it in your best interests to sign that guy for $600 million? I don't know. It doesn't make you worse, certainly, but does it? Is there a way for him to change your team to if you paid LeBron James, maybe not now at age 50, but if you sign LeBron at 30, there wasn't an amount of money that you could pay that would be too much for what impact he would have on your team. But if you pay Ohtani $600 million, he's out there. And he's doing all these unbelievable things, and the Angels are still losing games. So I don't know whether it can be justified to pay a baseball player that much.
Is it fair to say that right now, with Ellie De La Cruz, with Aaron Judge chasing home run records, and Shohei Ohtani doing what he's doing, it seems like there's a resurgence in baseball? And I do think that the pitch clock has helped. So you have a combination of star power, combined with the fact that games are 2.5 to 3 hours as opposed to 3.5, 4 hours. It feels like baseball, I don't know if it'll ever be what it was, but it feels like it's making a pretty strong comeback.
Well, I think the other thing that's helped, Dustin, and this is probably somewhat tangentially or a sort of a product of the pitch clock, but I think the change in the way the game is being played is important too. The Reds have more stolen bases this season than they've had in 40 years or whatever. I'm making that number up, but it's just a ridiculous number of years since they've come anywhere close to this. And it's more exciting. I wrote an article during the pandemic about how baseball was becoming home run or strike out. And you can go back. I'm sure Jim remembers this game. The first game they played against the Braves in the playoffs in the 2020 season, when they basically, whiffed 75 times or whatever it was. And that was baseball in that era. And it was boring. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't, there was no variety to the game. You hit a home run and you struck out. And that wasn't just one team. That was every team in the league, following the Moneyball approach. But what they lost in that was that the Moneyball approach was not just about, three true outcomes. The Moneyball approach was exploiting inefficiency. And the inefficiency that developed in baseball by then was everybody's playing the same way. If you want to win, there are a lot of other ways to play the game, and nobody's doing it. So go do that and see if you can win that way. Nobody had the guts to do it. The pitch clock, all of a sudden, because it's a little bit harder to pitch and keep track of the runner and all that, so it's made it a little bit easier to steal bases, and more teams are doing that now, and it's made the game more exciting, not just shorter. 2 hours of boring is still boring. It may be less boring because it's not 4 hours of boring, but it's still boring. But right now, baseball is 2 hours of more excitement than it's had in probably 20 years.
And it's hot stars that it hasn't had for so long with Ohtani and Eli De La Cruz and others as well. Mike, what's up next for you, man?
The Women's World Cup starts next Friday night. I'm struggling with the times, but I'm pretty sure it's Friday night, the U.S. versus Vietnam. I've got a whole series of articles in advance of that starting, I believe, on Sunday. We'll look at players such as Megan Rapinoe and Julie Ertz and Sophia Smith, as well as issues like the increase in prize money for the Women's World Cup, the growth in popularity of the women's game over the last 5 years. So we're going to look at that pretty in depth over the course of the week leading up to that first game against Vietnam. The women's group is really intriguing because they play Vietnam. The second game is against the Netherlands, which was the U.S.'s opponent in the 2019 final. So it could be a tough group, but if the U.S. can win that group, they will have a really nice draw, more than likely, as they go through the bracket on the way to possibly potentially a third consecutive World Cup win. No one's ever done that. Brazil men did 2 in a row a couple of times, but no one's ever done 3 in a row. So it's a pretty impactful and important pursuit for the U.S. women's national team.
We'll keep looking for that and look forward to having you back on next week. Can't wait. Glad to have you back from vacation. Big thanks to Matt Taylor and Dylan Sinn as well. And, of course, Dustin Schutte, John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. And most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. We're back tomorrow to do it all again. For Mike, for Dustin, and John, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports